right, here we go. Time for another episode of As the TFR Turns. And we're going to get right into it. But before we get into the action, I'd like to thank Ron Kennedy for his footage, which he's seeing right here, as well as his telemetry and the cool gauges that do the 30-second versus 5-minute power. Super cool. Really love those. Gives a lot of insight into what is going on here. Nice and sunny day, pretty big group. Got Mitch up front. Looks like Michael here. And Michael's going to pull off. And he does the hand thing. I'm going to just say that. I hate that. Like, you guys can do what you want to do. But there's a reason the pros don't take their hands off the handlebars. You can just wiggle your hands. Like, how many people do we know where they've taken their hands off their handlebars when it wasn't absolutely necessary? And then they go down. That being said, you're all adults, but if you watch any of the pros that are racing, any in the tour, nobody does that. And for as much time as we've been spending on the bike, we should be better too. All right, end of that rant, since really nobody listens to me anyhow, and I'm just like doing this just because I like hearing myself talk. But back to the action. We got Ron Kennedy up front, and I was right behind him. And Ron and I think it was Ed, they were throwing it down up front. I was like, what the hell? Like, I was thinking, like, why are we going so hard? And it felt hard. So we're looking at the 30-second power. Ron's at 324. I'm at 326. 5-minute power. Mine's 156. Ron's 140. Instantaneous power. We're well into that. Ron's 360. I was 350. These guys are just hitting it hard. I was like, what the heck is going on here? But whatever. So I'm on the gravel bike. You can see people starting to get strung out there. You got Isla there on her e-bike. And I'll talk about Isla again because she doesn't like watch these. She said she doesn't want to get mixed up in these things, but she kind of does. But I kind of said, hey, go test your metal. We were chatting earlier because you might be a good person to carry the camera sometime because, like, I'm not going to be there with the big men, at least not on the current bike. So Ron's still up front. You can see my view in the upper right there, the Steve cam. I'm drifting back because I didn't really want any part of taking over after that. And you can see there's a little, hesitation as Tony just goes to the front, happy to drill it. Looks like Daniel going after him. Anna pulling off to the side. Isla easily making her way up towards the front on the e-bike. Looks like we got Jeff there in the red sash across his back where the pockets are. Kind of an interesting stroke there. Looks like he's favoring the left side a little bit. But, quick observation there. Anyway, it looks like I'm trying to stay in contact here, but it's hard. I think I'm behind Ed at this point, who had dropped a little bit off the pace after that heroic turn at the front with Ron. I don't know what they were doing, but they definitely wanted to get the party started early. Ron cinching up to the big men. Looks like Tony's been brought back. I'm way back there. Got a shot of Michael in my rear view. Like, the wind is... Where is the wind coming from on today? I think it was maybe straight on. Oh, it was off our right shoulder slightly. I can tell by how I'm positioned and how everybody else is positioned. Going into this corner, still going pretty hard up there. Anna looking strong as she stretches her arm a bit. Isla in good contention up there. It looks like Mitch in the gray right in front of Ron. Nice tempo, and it looks like, is there a little bit of a gap starting to open up there? I can't really tell. Ron coming into the inside to make sure he gets a good view of what is going on up front, because you don't want to be gapped off by anybody, and getting that line of sight is super important. Looking at the Steve cam, looks like Michael has been dispatched, and I am still hanging on to the end of this train. Looking at our power, so my 5-minute power 203, Ron's 183. As you can see, once again, the penalty that I pay for having the gravel bike. Up front, it looks like Isla's still up there with Tony and Daniel duking it out. Looks like maybe this is Marcelo in front. Seems to have his gait, the way his cadence is. and Ron is in excellent position. There's no rotating going on. Strongmen are just flexing at the front as the selection has yet to be totally confirmed. Ron looks like he's moving up on the outside of Mitch as he is giving up the good draft. Don't know why he's actually sitting out there in the wind. Follow patterns, people. Follow patterns. And you can see the slight echelon here. But sometimes it is the strong men that do not want to take advantage of the draft or are unaware. And for a lot of people, it's difficult. Like, people are always coming to me like, I can't tell where the wind is coming from. Well, on days like this, like, which side of your face is cold? Or if they're like people in front with long hair, look at their ponytails. Look at the grass. Look at the flags. Look at what other people are doing. Like, all of these are context clues. In any case, it looks like no one has been able to break away just yet. And I think it is Daniel at the front. Someday I would have to ask Daniel for his power, but Daniel doesn't have a power meter. Maybe he'll get one next year, but it would be most interesting. And now the big inflection point. This is where gaps open up and selections can be made here. Ron, very alert, as I can see in my camera. And you can see he sees the gap opening up by Anna, and he is going to be quick to cover this. This could have been game over. Isla, quick to get on the wheel of, it looks like Daniel, not waiting for it to drag anybody up, but going up as if she has her own aspirations. Daniel looking back to see who is there, and he could take advantage of this if Isla would be willing to help him. Ron, nice catch as he is in third position behind Isla as Daniel is just ticking away. Isla letting slight bit of a gap open up, and I know the draft behind Isla is not as good as it is behind Daniel. Her small stature does not make for a lot of wind being pushed. Let's see what we got here. But even still, looking at my 30-second versus power, my 5-minute power is 201. Ron's is only 188. This is kind of indicating that I could be there if I wanted to be, but I'm on the gravel bike. Back there suffering behind Ed. My heart rate pegged at 176, 177. I don't think it should be that high. I'm going to say the C word, COVID. I don't think I've quite recovered from that illness over the summer the second time. And I do not seem to be coming back to the way I think I should be. Ron at the front drilling it hard. 30-second power now above mine at 271. His 5-minute power starting to catch mine. His is at 199. Mine's still at 204. Looking rearward, it looks like we've caught Marcelo, and this is where I should have been talking about this. There was a little bit of a train back there. Marcelo lets the gap open up and does not pull over. And it allowed, I think it was like Mitch and someone to just come around him. We could have all been working together back there. But once again, lack of knowledge, and we just go off cowboy, divide and conquer, and that's what everyone wants to see. Ron and Daniel working strong, working nicely at the front. Isla coming through into the mix. And sometimes it's interesting because the e-bike has an unnatural acceleration. And of course, she's moving over to the right-hand side, not certain where the draft is up here. Ron is to the right of Daniel, but it might be pretty much straight on. In any case, everybody's working hard. Looks like finally Ron's 5-minute power equals mine, despite the fact that I am way back there in no man's land. Isla leading out the sprint zone. Not certain what her thoughts are. Is she like, can I waste these people? Do I think I'm trying to help? Am I helping? Or am I just interfering with what would be a normal contest between the heavyweights on this one? I guess she enjoys being at the pointy end of the stick. Looking good. Ron just sitting there, ready to pounce. Hopefully saving energy, but not really. I mean, looking at his instantaneous power into the 200s, 30-second power, 224. So he is not at a picnic now, but is in some difficulty. Looking at the cadence of Dan, looks like he's got no problem there. And Isla, slow cadence, pushing the watts, just looking over her left shoulder. I'm not certain what she is looking for doing that. Slight lane change as she moves over to the left. Not certain what that's about. She seems like she's nervous up there. Maybe is she going to try to go for the, is she waiting for the big men? But I think all she need to do is pay attention to where she is and hold her line. And there we go. There's the attack by Daniel standing up. And Daniel does it right. Unlike Don last week, Daniel sprinting from the drops. And that is the way it is supposed to be. This shows, a seasoned racer, a more skillful, knowledgeable racer, at least in that final portion. Good battle by Ron there. That was pretty impressive. Love that one. That was good. I'm way back there in no man's land. I think I finally ended up catching Ed in that one. And I believe like Marcelo is either gonna pass everybody here, at least me and Ed, or yeah, maybe that's already happened. But it's kind of unfortunate that we were not able to work together. I think I might just end up like saving my breath, not making any more speeches, because it's clear that once people get race brain, it's just like, I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe they just have a different plan. Okay. Nice work there by Ron. Let's see where it's about time to head back. Go back and see and pick everybody else up. Not certain where everybody, yeah, everyone just got blown up here. Just totally destroyed. Yeah, and here's the recovery portion. Ron holding proper watts here. I love it. Not certain where everybody, yep, still people coming here as we do the regroup. I'm finally going to like turn around finally here as we pick up everybody who was dropped. All right. So not much happening here, but we're going to go and cover some of the other sprint zones here as we fast forward here. Looking good. We'll see what kind of organization we have here. We got people still in the middle of the road here, but finally starting to get organized a bit. Not certain where everybody is, but we'll kind of fast forward because this is not an interesting section here. Oh, we need to come here, and here we go. Ron Cam and Steve Cam as I am back in contact. I'm almost right next to Ron, as you can see. Pretty much identical views there. There's a shot of me in my OCR kit or OSI kit. Sponsored by OCR, as you can see the back of my shorts there. Ron in good position, and let's take a look at our power there. Yep, mine still a little bit above Ron's for the 5 minute, 105 versus 97, so you can see the penalty. Anna out front, and once again waving her hand to get people come through. I don't like that. I mean, pointing out things for one thing, but it just seems like it's still Mickey Mouse. It's like we're seasoned riders. The elbow is enough of a hint to tell people to come through. But taking the hands off the handlebars. Okay, I'm just not going to say it anymore. Anyway, Ron looking good. Isla with the e-bike out front in the second sprint zone. Definitely out there. And now, Ed calls for the rotation. And this is beautiful. I like this. So Ron's going to come through and he's going to begin the rotation. And this is what I like with the seasoned riders. There's some communication here. Maybe at some point I should like show the audio from our actual cameras. Ron's audio, his audio is really good, but for privacy reasons, we're not gonna put that out there just yet. Anyway, Ron looking strong here, and the rotation is strong. People coming through, and this is what I'd like to see. Ed coming through again, and you can see in the rear camera that I have in the Steve Cam behind Ron, and then now there that everybody is starting to grok the rotation thing. It's looking smooth. And it looks like maybe to the base, it'll be the revolver, and people can have a real shootout here. And I like this is what we should be doing. Everyone's staying close and tight. Everyone's not overlapping wheels. Everyone's staying on the wheel pretty much, although some of the riders were not staying on the wheel of the next person there. Ron coming up the inside. I don't know, probably to have a little chat with Ed, maybe to thank him for getting the rotation started. But this looks good at this point. Everybody knows what to do until they don't. Okay, so look in the upper right. There's Anna there. And like at some point, the rider behind her decides he does not want to come through. And you'll see it there where she'll come to the front and all is lost. Ron coming through slowly. And this is what is supposed to happen here. No quick accelerations. And we're looking at that beautiful shot from the Ron camera, 8K. Too bad YouTube renders it down. But there we go. Anna coming to the front in third, and nobody is behind her. And this is where they just fell apart because of lack of education. I did chat with the gentleman who didn't follow through, and he didn't really know what to do. People have lost the art, and they've lost the art of, hey, I'm in kindergarten. Just follow the pattern. So Anna pulls off. Danny comes through. She doesn't wiggle the elbow. Once again, the hand's coming off of the handlebars. I don't like it. Feel free to write in the comments and tell me I'm an idiot. But please, justify that. We're seasoned here. The elbow is enough. Anyway, so Ron to the front. And you can see the beautiful shot from his 8K 360 camera. You can see his real-time watch there. 260. Beautiful, beautiful there as he is going for it. His looks 5-minute power is at 140 something. Mine's at 150 something. So the penalty. And Ron is at the front. Going hard. Doesn't look like anybody's going to challenge him. And you can see what it takes for the big men to suffer. And the look on Ron's face as he digs deep, standing up to stamp his authority up to the top of the hill. And this is no gentle effort here. And I don't think Daniel was able to respond to the surge. Perhaps in the last sprint zone, it was too much for Daniel. Or Daniel's going to come by at this point here as he just sucked wheel there. Top of the hill, it looks like, yep, doesn't look like Daniel's actually challenging Ron for that one, but Ron still keeping the pressure on. And you can see the anguish on his face as there's a little bit of time to go here. And because there's really no official sprint end here, I'm not really certain where people are going to push to. Some people like to push all the way to the end. I have a different opinion. Okay, there's Daniel just sitting on Ron. And I think at this point, but looking at Daniel's cadence, he's not going that hard. I think he has no problem going around at this point. Ron still keeping it down, 300 and some watts. Yep, looks like Daniel's pretty much maybe shut it down. And Ron takes this one. So, nice job, everyone. That was pretty cool. Nice little battle there. We will work on our rotation, getting everyone to know what to do. Last week, or at least the week after this, I'm not even going to talk about it because people just did not know how to work. I made a speech at the beginning of the ride. There was maybe several people having side conversations that really didn't give a crap about what I had to say because they're going to do their own thing anyhow. So, anyway, nice job, Ron. And moving on. Wait for everybody. And time to head down to the tempo zone. Stoplight. Good shot of everybody there. Looks like Anna has put her jacket in there, wearing the bright pink. The Maglia Rosa, as we would say, from her Italian heritage, and proud. All right, waited here long enough, and here we go. I'm way back on this one. Way back. And I believe it's this one. I was going to go to the front and try to get people to rotate. And at some point, I think I hit 700 watts trying to go to the front. And then it was just no moss. And I was just like, okay. Yeah, you can see me here. Coming up, trying to get to the front to say, hey, let's rotate. But I couldn't get there. And at this point, I'm just like, F it. I don't need this shit. Game over. I'm going to just cruise in by myself and really don't give a crap if anybody waits at this point, Anyway, back to Ron's action. People going pretty hard up here. Maybe there's some rotation starting. Looks like Jimmy comes to the side here. Not coming back too quickly, but it looks like it's mano a mano up here. It's like Mitch Butt might be at the front holding a good tempo. Heading into the stretch. And we switch to, and that was the end of the Ron cam. That's all the footage that he sent me. So we're done with that. I'm way back here. Let's fast forward here. And it looks like way, way back. You can get an idea how far back I was. People were wondering, Marcella did you take another route when I finally cut out? I'm thinking to myself, dude, there is no other route unless I have a transporter. All right. So at this point, I kind of resigned it to myself to ride alone, which I'm starting to increasingly enjoy more and more. think I should get back on the mountain bike, be done with this roadie crap. Anyway, heading up the road here. Looks like people finally actually did wait. Perhaps the TFR culture isn't totally dead. And so, final sprint zone, sitting here behind Isla. And the draft isn't that great for a couple of reasons. Isla is small, and she sits back off of the group just a little bit, where, that big bullet pushes a lot of air, but me being where I am, in this position, it's just not great. But everyone's strung out here. Michael waves people through to go around at some point because he's letting a gap open up slowly but surely. I think at some point Isla's going to go around. The group they're still kind of coagulated up there. It's like, oh, somebody was out in the road as this car went by. Although that car didn't really have a real reason to split lanes. And here I am, kind of tacked onto the back. Current power, not too bad. Here we go. Michael, once again, people taking their hands off their handlebars. Like, yeah, just don't like it. Don't like it for safety reasons. And anyway, that's done with. But it's like beating a dead horse. But, it doesn't matter what I say anyhow. I beat the drums. I beat the dead horse. But still, the horse gets up because nobody listens. At this point, it looks like my 30-second power isn't too bad. And there is somewhat of a truce here coming into the sprint zone past the bridge. But still, back a little further than I'd want to be for like optimum draft here. But we're watching and waiting. Looking at Ron's power. What do you got up there? 150, 140. Yeah. Looks like Tony letting a little bit of a gap open up in front of Island. This is why I hate being at the back. Because people are just thinking about themselves. They open up these gaps and then they decide maybe I want to close these gaps and throw down 400 watts and basically leave people in the back just like holding the bag. Lots of gravel people are pointing out. I'm like, yeah, why are you pointing out gravel? At least to the last guy on a gravel bike. But, it's good practice to do it anyhow. Just like keeping your hands on the handlebars and wiggling your elbow. Looks like the truce is still held, but Ron's power starting to come up. I can see 200 plus watts, and the average for 30 seconds is 216. So here we go. It is game on at this point. Everybody still in contention. No selection has been made. I'm hanging on at the back, and it looks like I think Ron's actually at the front on this one. Yeah. So I'm sitting back here, and here's Isla letting the slight gap open up again. And now the draft, I have thrown out like 400 watts there for a second as like Tony decides to finally close his gap. Isla lets this gap open up. Not too happy about that. If I was on my regular bike and wanted to be in contention, I would waste 700 watts here to get back up to Tony. But I'm like, whatever, And so it looks like Jeff coming back. Tony going around. Tony shouldn't let that gap open up. Isla I don't know what she's doing, but I'm throwing down 400 watts at this point as she's finally going to go around Tony, and now she hits it. And I'm not able to, or didn't want to go. And this is like the unnatural acceleration of the e-bike. With what she's putting down, nobody's coming around her at this point. And I'm like, okay, no mas, as it's left for everybody to fight it out. So I don't know what really happened like further on up there. Can't really speak to that, but at least it was reasonably safe. Anyway, peace out.